I love this game. Ys 8 is easily... Sorry. Ys 8 is easily my favourite Ys game that I've played thus far. Not only do I feel it encompasses everything that makes a great Ys game, but I feel it encompasses everything that makes a great action RPG. And to be honest, I've wanted to do a review on this for quite a while now. You know, ever since I made this channel, I wanted to do a review on stuff like Ys 8, stuff like Trails of Cold Steel, but at the end of the day, this was the one that I really wanted to do. So coming up with a reason to do it was quite easy, actually. What the? Oh. Right, let's see what this is. Are you serious, man? Okay, well, I guess we'll just have a bath for a bit. I need to think about what to do about that review. Dude, are you serious right now? However, for Western fans, this was actually kind of bittersweet for a while, because even though we got a fantastic Ys game localized, the actual localization job marred what was otherwise a fantastic experience. So, let's have a look at what actually happened, shall we? So when fans touch on Ys 8, a lot of people will mention the localization debacle surrounding the game. Back in September 2017, NISA had just released a localization to the PS4 and Vita platforms in what can only be described as a very poor state, and also announced that the PC port would be delayed indefinitely. The main issue related to the actual translation, having quotes that didn't fit the expression or mood of the characters and just being straight up laughable at times. The most notorious of these mistakes was in regard to a location known as the crevice of the Archeozoic era, which was literally in English from the Japanese version. NISA took that name and renamed it to Archeozoic Big Hole. Yeah. And that led to some pretty hilarious lines like this one. Needless to say, in October, NISA CEO Takuro Yamashita released an apology to the fans, stating that they would retranslate the entire game, along with new voice acting and re-edits where appropriate. This was later released as a free patch for the PS4 and Vita, and would also be applied to the PC port and Nintendo Switch versions upon their release. However, the issues did not stop there, as the PC port experienced a slew of technical errors and poor optimization, crashing within the first hour for many players. NISA was somewhat notorious for doing this with other PC ports of JRPGs that year as well, so it's fair to say that their reputation among Falcom fans was not in the best place. Thankfully, come 2019, the game appears to be completely stable, at least for me when I played it via Steam. It crashed once during my entire playthrough, and that wasn't too much of a problem, as I was easily able to get back to the area I was at prior, so I could enjoy this game with pretty much no issue. And that's a very good thing, because I want to share with you guys why I believe that Ys 8 is a masterpiece of the Falcom library. The game opens up as many Ys games do, Adol and Dogi en route to their next adventure via ship. Needless to say, with Adol aboard, the ship is doomed as soon as it leaves port. It's a wonder why no one just denies him entry when boarding. The guy is a walking curse for anything with a hole and sail. True to form, the ship comes under attack by a creature which is clearly not the Kraken before the damage becomes unsustainable, causing the ship to be dragged to the bottom of the briny sea. Eventually, Adol comes to his senses, alone, and stranded on what appears to be an island. Ever the curious, he picks up a sword and starts to take in the scenery. Upon venturing a bit further, Adol and his new companion Laxia venture into a cave to follow what they believe is another stray survivor. It's within these first few moments that you start to get a taste of the combat that you'll be dealing with in Ys 8. Needless to say, it's easily one of the biggest drawing points of the game. Ys games will generally have fast and fluid combat, tight controls, and a plethora of options that the player can use to take out enemies. It's no different here, but instead of having Adol alone in say games like Oath-and-Felghana, he is instead joined up by two other active party members which you can freely switch in and out. Each character will be proficient in a certain style of attack, slashing, piercing or crushing, and enemies will be weak to one of the three. Think the triangle system from Fire Emblem, but with real-time combat. As the game progresses, it becomes more and more important to utilise the correct character for the situation, as the best method of dealing meaningful damage is to break the enemy's posture. How the player decides to do that damage is purely up to their discretion. Each character will have a set combo for their normal attacks, but they'll also be able to jump, dodge, guard and use skills by pressing the right bumper and then referring to the four main buttons, in my case A, B, X and Y. As the characters level up, they start to get more skills that you can experiment with, so you can find a set of skills which works for any playstyle. For example, some skills may deal light damage, but they have the ability to extend your basic combo to keep up the pressure, while other techniques can lift enemies airborne, allowing for extended air combos. As said before, the player is also able to dodge and guard with the use of the left and right bumpers. If an enemy attacks and you press one of these buttons within the correct window, your active character will shift into either a flash guard or flash move state, which yields minor benefits in combat. Though this can be difficult to initially get the hang of, the enemies for the most part give very obvious tells that you can use to your advantage, and very soon you'll be a flashing god. Not in that way. However, this is not the only draw, as each character also has their own playstyle via their skill sets, agility and in some cases the weapon itself. Do you want the balanced style of Adol, the heavy hitting but slower movement of Sahad, or the ranged capability of Hummel? There's enough diversity here for every player to find their preferred style. I personally really enjoyed this system. It reminded me a lot of Dark Souls combat, having a similar style to the former but feeling a little more fast paced and, dare I say it, a bit more satisfying. Admittedly, it was difficult at times to get used to the switch mechanic in real-time combat, and there are many times where I fumbled the buttons trying to get the right outcome, but it remains one of my favourite parts of the game, and later I became an Issei God of War. Anyway, after terminating a chunky bat, duo stumble upon Barbossa. Sorry, Barbaros, the captain of the Lombardia that was sunk at the beginning of the game. It appears that the group have ended up marooned on the Isle of Seren, a landmass that many seafarers believe to be cursed. The three decide that the best course of action for now is twofold: explore the island and find more castaways. This pretty much becomes your main objective for the entirety of the game. Initially, the island will be pretty much unknown, and it rests with Adol and his posse to chart the key locations. As you explore, you'll find new locales, memories of your adventure, and of course other passengers of the ship who will come back to your home base and modify it in a certain way. Some have the ability to create accessories, others will cook, and some will upgrade armour and weapons. They're all useful and contribute to the overall escape effort. Well, most of them. As you progress further into the game, you can enhance what these merchants offer, either by finding key items or by going off the beaten path a little, so there's ample reason to search every nook and cranny of the island to get the benefits. Again, this is another mechanic I really like. It's fulfilling to bring more characters back to your home base and see the settlement grow into something credible. It's not just what these castaways offer either, as you can either complete quests or offer gifts to increase their approval ratings, which if done, can give a nice cutscene when maxed out. And though I'll say that the character development is not as stellar as say the likes of Trails for obvious reasons, it's still a nice incentive to see what motivates these characters to keep pushing forward, and what you can do in order to help them out. Needless to say, I wanted to try and find every castaway before the game ended. So, with the objectives set and swords in hand, Adol and Alexia leave the encampment to find more survivors, at which point you're instantly met with this. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's played a Falcom title, but the soundtrack for this game is godlike and kicks ass. It consistently reaches the right emotional pitch no matter what situation you find yourself in, whether you're just setting out on your adventure or you're trying to overcome a difficult fight. I know that I do harp on about Falcom's soundtracks quite a lot, but honestly, a bad set of tunes can completely ruin an experience, and thankfully this is something that Falcom titles ace on a consistent basis. It really does make you feel like you're on an adventure. And speaking of making you feel like you're on an adventure, so where are we off to? With this setting, I feel that Falcom have done a masterful job in weaving a meaningful journey. You know nothing of this island, previous exploration has given no results, you're stuck until you find a solution, and all you can see are various landmarks that you know you will have to eventually overcome. The location itself is a mystery, there's no civilization here, just you and a handful of survivors who must discover the truth. However, despite keeping you on a path in relation to the main story, the game oddly never feels linear. You're free to move around the island however you please, but your progress will be blocked by various natural means, and the only way to remove them is to find more castaways, so it encourages you to go to the other areas of the island in order to progress further. It's an effective way of pushing the story along while also not taking too much freedom away from the player. I can only applaud Falcom for striking and executing this balance so well. However, what I can't praise them for is the in-game map. There are no less than 4 maps you can use, and they all seem to work against each other. For example, the main map will show that you are in the northeastern quadrant of a particular area. Okay, fair enough. But then you check your second map and it will show you're actually at the southern entrance. Add on to this multiple layers, poorly defined borders for each area, and it can quickly become a ball ache to find what you're actually looking for, especially if you're doing the extra side missions. One of the most annoying examples of this is in this mountain dungeon where I need to find a white tree. Now it shows that the tree is in this area, but it doesn't tell me what level of the dungeon it's actually on. So all I see is a blue exclamation mark taunting me all the way up. Where the f*** am I? It is annoying, but honestly, it's not game breaking, and I'm not going to harp on more about it, but I just decided to use the live map by clicking in the left stick, which did work well enough. I would only use the main map to jump from area to area, which was admittedly very easy to navigate. After finding some more castaways, 2 things become clear very quickly. First of all, the group appears to be stranded on an island with creatures known as primordials, which are definitely not dinosaurs, and secondly, Ado is consistently having dreams of a girl with blue hair, ultimately sharing what appear to be her memories. 2 people who are able to connect to each other and share each other's memories through what can only be described as divine providence? As you progress further into the unknown, you'll find yourself moving through beautiful what? I feel this is a good time to mention raids. At certain points in the adventure, an icon will show up on the top right of the screen indicating that you need to come back to help out the village from an imminent attack. They're ultimately a gauntlet of enemies set in a predefined arena, and your goal is to prevent them from breaking through the main gate. Dogi will allow you to create stronger fortifications as the game goes on to make these fights easier, which in many cases you will need, as some of these raids can be brutal in terms of enemy numbers. This is also why you'll need to save as many castaways as you can, as they will assist you in the battles with their own boons. Now, while I did enjoy the first few raids, it became more of an annoyance the further the game went on. Thankfully, only a few of these raids are required to progress the main narrative, and the rest, as far as I could tell, were completely optional, so as I got closer to the end of the game, I just ignored them completely. Though I will admit, I did find it hilarious finishing up character arcs around this time. The peaceful music would roll, we would talk about our future ambitions and say how great we all are, with massive primordials lurking outside the gates at that exact moment.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take these animals home with me and raise them on my own farm. What's that sound?
Very soon after, the group discover that exploring the northern parts of the island will be a struggle. A canyon stretches across the land, blocking any progress, and there happens to be the small issue of a psycho killer within the group who is subsequently discovered relatively quickly. Well, of course he's evil. He's got those squinted eyes, he's got that traditional waistcoat, and you so happen to have found another doctor like 2 seconds ago. Despite this though, the fear is too much for some, as one of the castaways decides to make a break for it and is rapidly taken care of. And even worse, in pursuing the lunatic, Captain Barbosa
It'd be too late to off the course now, baby!
suffers a grave wound, leaving the group ultimately leaderless. The screen fades to black as the group mourns their fallen comrade. But that's okay, because now we get to play as the best character in the game. I'm gonna say it now, one of the biggest reasons why I love Issei is because of Dana. She's witty, she's endearing, she's empathetic, and I love her design, having that kind of ancient yet regal look to her, and personally, I'm also a sucker for sword-wielding lasses. And Dana, well, she has 2 swords. But in all seriousness, it's not just Dana that makes this journey so enjoyable, as the main group that accompanies Adol here also contributes well to the overall experience. There's not really anything that breaks the mold in terms of character archetypes here. We have the tsundere, the father figure, the eccentric child, the Dana. Yes, I gave her her own archetype, and the overly serious that it borders on sarcastic. Though again, I'll say that their characterization is not as fleshed out as other Falcom titles for obvious reasons. I'd still say that they develop and grow well as a group, constantly looking out for each other to pursue a common goal. As you travel with them, you'll also get your chances to increase their aptitude for Adol via quests or gifts, and naturally this will lend to further development of their character arcs. You'll get to understand their motivations for escaping the island, their backgrounds as to what led them to this situation, and see how they evolve as the story continues. A solid cast of characters always helps with the experience you have in any game, and I'm happy to say that Ys 8 meets this threshold with relative ease, making your journey substantially more enjoyable. Talking about enjoyable, you'll notice that Dana operates much like the other characters. However, in these sequences where she's alone, she gets a few extra quirks to spice up her combat. The most notable of these are her different forms that she attains during the game, utilising the elements of water, earth and light. You can switch through these forms on the fly, though I don't know why you'd want any other form than this one, as it's easily the best. And again, find the style that suits you. Anyway, Dana needs to partake in a ceremony as part of being a maiden of the Great Tree of Origins. A tree which for the longest time I thought was the tree from Ys Origins. Because, you know, it's a tree of origin. Forget that. She makes her way to the end of the canyon, sees an ominous vision and then plants a tree, taking us back to our resident red-haired lady killer. The group decide that they should now try and move north, you know, to where that giant canyon is. The best way to head north is to scale the mountain right at the centre of the island, but of course finding a way across that massive abyss is the tricky part. Psych! It now appears that there is a giant tree acting as a bridge across the canyon. How convenient. As they make their way up the mountain, bop a few more primordials, find the offspring of Tarzan and Jane, they, oh hey, look who's here! You know, Mishi wasn't feeling too great in the last episode, so hopefully he's like improved his mood since that point. So, Mishi? You are nothing. At the summit of the mountain, they take out a roided Falco Lombardi and gaze down at the vista below. Have I said how amazing this game looks yet? Because, whoo-wee, this game looks good. It's crazy to believe that this was Falcom's first real try at a true 3D Ys game, and also the first time they had made software for the PS4. They decided to go for that anime style look with a rich colour palette that really brings the world to life. Add on to that the high draw distance and it just looks amazing. Considering graphics are not the thing that Falcom excel at, I think they should be praised for what they've done here. I found myself just standing here for a solid 5 minutes taking in the scenery and getting pumped for what more the game had to offer. Upon surveying the land, Sahad notices some ruins further north, ruins that look man-made, and the team wastes no time in making their way down to explore. It's clear that these ruins seem to be the remnants of an ancient civilization, and Adol instantly starts to draw parallels to the world that Dana resides in within his dreams. And he also makes the others aware about the dreams he's been experiencing. Huh. A present timeline with ruins, and a past timeline where the civilization is apparently thriving. How intriguing. And oddly familiar. It's here that Dana also becomes aware of Adol's existence, using her saplings to create more bridges for the group to traverse the fallen city. The group finally end up at the ruined temple of the Great Tree thanks to Dana the Builder, and to their shock find a blue-haired girl suspended in branches. Taking her back to the camp, it's clear that she's lost her memories, outside of her name, her position as Maiden of the Great Tree, and her sharing of memories with Adol. Dana mentions a scullery tower where research during the Eternian era was regularly conducted, and it might give the group clues to defeat their watery captor. After traversing the Leaning Tower of Get Me Out of Here, which is definitely not optimal for people who have any form of motion sickness, they discover that if they can find the creatures, known as an Okeanos' nest, then they can most likely defeat it. With assistance from Budget Jack Sparrow, they get a sea chart which charts the movements of the creature and find that the Okeanos resides at the bottom of the big hole. Sorry, I had to. Unfortunately, getting there is out of the question as the palace has since been reduced to rubble, and you know what that means? More time-jumping shenanigans. At the bottom of the chasm, they find the Okeanos, destroy it, eat and drink like royalty, and finally realise that there is now nothing stopping them from leaving the island. But of course, you know JRPGs, we still have to help out Dana before leaving, and as the dreams continue that night, the true cause for the demise of Eternia is revealed as a meteor shower. Wait, that's the reason Eternia fell? Well, that's literally the same as— ooh! Ooh! Yeah, okay, so let's go over the story a bit. It's executed as well as you would expect from any Falcom game. The suspense is there, the mystery is prevalent, and the payoff is good. However, it does bear a striking similarity to a certain film. Back in 2016-17, I was living in Japan teaching English, and during that time you couldn't go anywhere without seeing some sort of promotional material for a film called Kimi no Na wa, which ended up being the 4th highest grossing film of all time in Japan. Now naturally, with all of this promotion around me, I eventually decided to give it a watch, and sure enough, it was amazing. You should watch it. Skip forward a year and a half and I finally play Ys 8 at last, and as I play through, I can't help but feel I've seen this story before. Now I'm not saying that this story was taken directly from the film because, well, Ys 8 was actually released a month before Kimi no Na wa. But I do want to share something with you in regards to an interview that was done recently with Kondo, so we're going to call this the Kondo Corner. Back in 1998, Kondo was a fresh-faced university graduate and applied for the finance department at Falcom, a company that he had since made a fan website for in light of his favourite game, The Legend of Heroes 2: Prophecy of the Moonlight Witch. Upon calling the Falcom office for job opportunities, they called him in for an informal interview where they showed him some of their new projects and then got a fellow young employee to take him for lunch. The person who took Kondo for lunch that day was none other than Shinkai Makoto, director of Kimi no Na wa. I mean, you can't really write that, can you? Like I say, I'm sure there is no foul play here, I just always thought it was a very interesting parallel between the two stories, especially considering the connection that Kondo and Makoto had with each other in the past. Overall though, it's a great story, probably one of the best I've played through in the E series, and I've got really no more complaints other than that, if that was a complaint. Following the aftermath of the meteor shower vision, 4 otherworldly beings revealed themselves to the group. They call themselves Wardens of Evolution, and the Great Tree of Origins acts as a catalyst for the Lacrimosa, a process of selection and rejection that maintains the natural order of the world. From time immemorial, the tree will bring forth a cataclysmic event to wipe out civilization, and those that survive are granted the blessing of evolution. From each era, the tree will choose one of the brightest hearts among the species to become a Warden of Evolution, someone who will watch over the process for eternity. Dana was such a warden, but rejected her role and sealed herself off when her people finally succumbed to disease in the bitter cold. Can I just say though, she hasn't really sealed herself off here. I mean, she's just covered herself with a few branches. I mean, can't that Minotaur dude literally just like put his arms in there and drag her out? Or are these branches going to go Treebeard on them? By rejecting her fate, she vowed to meet Adol and stop the next Lacrimosa from occurring, a Lacrimosa that is currently in the making with the birth of Primordials. However, all is not lost. During Dana's era, the waters of the Seren Garden flow, which represent the collective psyches and wills of eras past which feed into the Tree of Psyches. By harnessing the power of the tree, a chosen transcendent being can counter the Lacrimosa and stop the natural order of the world. Unfortunately for eras bygone, the number of psyches amassed were too few in number to harness, but in the era of man, it appears that this is no longer the case. Adol draws the power to defy natural order into his blade, and the group make their way to the Tree of Origins to finally put a stop to the Lacrimosa. And oh my god! Look at the size of that thing! Following a multi-tiered fight against the providence of evolution itself, the world begins to shake and finally turns black. When Adol awakens, he finds that he's back at the base camp with the castaways ready to set sail. All knowledge of the Lacrimosa has since dissipated, and Dana is nowhere to be found and appears to be void from everyone else's memories. Adol, knowing that something is clearly wrong, moves back to where the Great Tree of Origins once stood, to find nothing. Just untamed wilderness. Conceding that he is simply hallucinating, he decides to leave the area behind, and thus the game ends. Well, it does end that way if you got the bad ending, which I did do on my first playthrough. Somehow. You see, there are actually 3 endings to this game, a bad, a good, and the true ending. So let's have a look at the true ending, which I happen to get on my second playthrough. It appears that the other members of the group have also failed to disturbance in the Force and have followed Adol to this spot where their parrot companion transforms into the goddess of Earth, Maya. After restoring the memories of the lost world, Maya discloses the truth. The Earth is her dream, a dream of her deep slumber. Upon destroying the natural order of the world, Maya awoke, causing her dream, the world itself, to crumble to nothingness. In this moment, she recreated a new world that Adol and everyone else find themselves upon. It's here that the fate of Dana is revealed, that she erased her own existence by offering herself as exchange for the process of evolution. By ascending to a higher concept of evolution, she is no longer visible to entities of Earth. However, there exists a way to once again see their friend. By defeating potentially the hardest boss in the game, the true destiny of Dana is revealed, not as a removed existence, but as the new Goddess of Evolution. Now that's an ending. With the Lacrimosa now in good hands, the group finally make their way back to the encampment and finally set sail, leaving the island and their journey behind. And roll credits. And that is the end of Ys 8. It's a truly amazing journey from start to finish, and ultimately that's why it is my favourite Ys game, heck, one of my favourite JRPGs in general. It's one of the only JRPGs that I have played through twice, the other two being Lost Odyssey and Eternal Sonata. It takes a lot for a game to make me want to see its offering for the second time, and Ys 8 passed that threshold with flying colours. If you're a fan of action RPGs or you just want a real blood-pumping adventure, then Ys 8 is the perfect place to join Adol on his adventures. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to read the journal from the man himself, because I want to read a little bit more on what Adol has to say about his adventure on the Isle of Seren. Got the book the wrong way around.